Welcome back to what we're calling Bad Ideas, which is a short series where we interview world-class coaches, consultants, and business owners, marketing experts, and try to find out, hey, I love all the good ideas that you put out there on the internet, but what if I gave you the worst idea ever? Could you make that something successful? Today, we have Marc Mawhinney. Marc Mawhinney is a lifetime entrepreneur. He's been helping coaches get more clients without ads since 2014. He's the host of Natural Born Coaches podcast. He's got almost 900 episodes out there. He is the head honcho or the Tarzan of the Coaching Jungle, which is a Facebook group with 26,000 coaches in the community. He's spoken at huge events like Social Media Marketing World. He's been all over entrepreneur.com and any publication. If you Google Marc Mawhinney, you're going to have a long time you get to spend there. So Marc, thank you for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me, AJ. So Bad Ideas, it sounds like one that should be after like weekends, drunken weekends, like the Hangover type show, but it's cool that has a business spin on it. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, my hope is that I feel like we hear a lot of the good things from you and other people. I mean, you've been a resource. I don't know if you know this. You've actually been a resource for me in the past, cool. trying to learn different, especially community building. Like you have a really sick, awesome community over at the Coaching Jungle. And so I think like we can learn a lot of those things, but also like, what if I give you something that you have to polish that maybe isn't a diamond, right? Like how are you going to do with that? So yeah, man, I think we're going to just kind of hop in and I'm going to roll my little virtual D20 here and see what horrible idea we have going. Diet water. All right. So let's go into it. So if you're trying to sell diet water, who's it for?
I think with diet water, let's go with middle-aged men with dad bods, and we're going to niche down a little bit more into the divorced ones that are trying to pick up, the young 21-year-olds and stuff, and they want to get rid of that gut and the dad bod. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So it's for dad bods. That's interesting. That is not what I thought you were going to guess.
Well, it may have come up because I'm a 40-something divorced male with somewhat of a dad bod. So I'm not making fun of anyone. Trust me. Maybe I'm trying to create something I want. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought you were pointing it to me. I was like, what are you saying, man? I've been trying to run more and more. I'm doing my best here. I'm almost up to 3 miles. Okay. So it's for divorced dads. Diet water for divorced dads, for dad bods, right? Okay. And then, I think you touched on it a little bit, but like, what are we trying, like, what's the pain point of this thing that we're trying to solve? Like, we're helping them lose weight. Is that the angle we're going?
It's more a placebo. So I don't know if this goes against like federal regulations with health and stuff, but it's literally, I would do just typical, like normal water that you could get anywhere. But it's more the label that people are paying for. And these depressed dads are hoping to impress the younger women with the label. So that's all it is.
It's just a label. So we're not like including celery with it or something and being like, this is minus calories.
But the theory is this will help because if they're drinking more of this, what is really just water with a fancy label, they're drinking less beer, less hard liquor, less Pepsi or Coke or whatever. So it will help them indirectly, but it's not going to do anything except for a placebo.
It's still just water. It's still just 0 calories. Okay. I like it. Maybe we can make it look cool like Liquid Death did, right? Liquid Death is just selling water.
That's very cool. All right. I remember there's an old SNL. Remember they do the fake commercials? Do you remember Crystal Pepsi? Back in what was it, the 90s?
I remember Crystal Pepsi.
Anyone who, it might be before some people's time watching this, but Crystal Pepsi was basically like the see-through Pepsi, right? Yeah. And SNL had a spoof commercial, Crystal Gravy, I believe it was. And they did a whole thing like that. I'm pretty sure it was Crystal Gravy, but anyways, that's what I thought of, yeah.
No, when you said that, I thought of, do you remember Upside Down 7-Up? That was like a short. That was like a Pepsi Blue or Crystal Pepsi.
Oh, okay.
Like it was this weird. I don't even. We had it, and I couldn't tell you what was different about it except the logo was upside down.
Except the logo. See, it may not have. I don't know if it got to Canada or not, where I'm up north. So maybe it didn't, or maybe it was short lived.
Yeah, I mean, if it failed in America, where we'll buy any garbage, it probably wouldn't work in Canada, where they're more reasonable.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that. We're not always that reasonable, but there is a little bit of a lag. Like for example, iPhones got bigger here after they were probably bigger in the States for at least a few months. So I got my first iPhone in early 2009, and everyone's saying like, "What's an iPhone?" Because they all had Blackberries, right? And I'd used Blackberries for years, and they're like, "Isn't iPhone for games or whatever?" Well, yeah. So and that just goes to show, like, I was not an early adopter in the grand scheme of things in early 2009, but up here in Atlantic, Canada, everyone looked at me like I had two heads. Like, what are you doing with an iPhone? Aren't you in business? Like, are you playing little games?
Yeah, no, I remember that's interesting. I didn't know about the little bit of a lag. I guess I knew a lot of tech and stuff was pushed by the states because we have our little hubs here. But it's I'm learning. I'm learning from you. I'm learning from Tega here, one of our producers who's from the UK. So it's like, okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, the saying is when America sneezes, Canada catches a cold. So if it's the economy or anything, it takes just a little while to get up here, but it's going to reach here.
That gives you enough time to dodge the
Yes.
consequences of what we've done. So cool. Okay, so let's think of like a hook or something for this. Like, are you tired of blank, or would you like to blank? Well, now you can do this with diet water. So, like, what would you? I have a couple ideas, but I want to know.
You know me, I like dad jokes and puns. So just the thing that pops into my head is if we could do a play on H2O. So maybe it's like H2 glow or something. That might be a little too feminine. Maybe it's H2 go, with the whole active type thing, Unless that's taken, I'm sure somebody may have H2 go, but that would be mine. It's got that sort of momentum feeling to it. Those men going through midlife crisis driving in their convertible, and they got their hair plugs and stuff, now have their H2 go as well.
I like H2 Go as a name. I think that's good. And if it's taken, we'll just spell it really messed up. It'll be great. So that's the move now in the world. If you can't get the actual domain or the name that you want, you just spell it all messed up.
Yes, exactly.
So I think if we're doing like H2 Go, we could do something maybe like, are you tired of, feeling like a dad bod? Are you tired? Wouldn't you like to shouldn't losing weight be a lot easier? Well, now you can, thanks to H2 Go. And people are like, oh, thank God. Finally, water that's not going to make me fat.
Lose some weight, don't lose the fun. Maybe it's something around stop drinking calories. Like a can of Pepsi is 150 calories, I think. People don't think of it because they picture calories as being food. They don't always think of what they're actually drinking there. So, yeah.
I like the idea of just pretending water, like we're inventing water, like it doesn't exist. And like, let's not even address that it's a diet. Let's just sell it and be like, don't you wish there was a drink with no calories? And people will be like, yeah, that'd be great, right?
Well,
like,
what's funny, I'm a bottled water guy. Like, I got one here, right? I'm like very snooty. I won't drink tap water or whatever. But chances are, like, all the bottled water companies always have the picture of some like mountain in like Switzerland or some like faraway place or whatever, but they're probably just tap water, and they're doing the same thing to us. We're like, yeah, just throw it in a bottle, slap a label on it, we're good. These suckers will buy it. So, I'm falling for it probably now.
I have the filters like and I'll throw all the salt in my water. So that like those like little powder packages that are like electrolytes, right? So I actually have been running, and so I was told to start drinking these saltwater things. They're like, it'll help you. I'm like, oh, I feel a little bit better. I don't know if it's in here or I don't know if it's actually helping me, but I started drinking them, and I was like, well, if one a day is good, like 3 a day must be even better. And so I was drinking like 5 times the amount of salt I was supposed to have in a day. And I was like, why am I bloating? And why do I feel not great? And my friend's like, you're drinking, like, you're going to get kidney stones if you keep doing that. I was like, oh, I guess I just didn't think that that makes sense. Doctors have been saying don't have too much salt for a long time. And so
I would have thought of salt as being dehydrating. So the opposite of if you're running, but I'm sure there's a method to the madness somewhere.
I think they're what they are saying is like that the salt, like you lose salt when you sweat. And so it helps. With that.
You're replenishing it.
Yeah. I don't know though. We'll find out. Okay. So, I'll let you know if and when I run a race, what happens to me.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have our diet water. It's H2 Go, finally something without calories. Tired of drinking your calories, tired of being a dad bod, tired of never finding a partner who, is impressed by your Corvette and your 3 children that don't live with you. How would you like this? So what channels would you use to market this?
Oh, by the way, I think our backup could also be H2 Flow if the H2Go is taken. So, where are we marketing this? Well, we have to think where, I guess the grand scheme of things, we want to be in a lot of places social media wise, right? Because that's our target markets there. But I'm thinking there's probably some different things we could do to have some fun. Definitely doing some promotions with gyms at the beginning of the year, when everyone goes to gym, then by mid-February they're not, but at least we'll hit them in there. I also think there's some things we could do with home units that you put onto your tap. Again, it's nothing. It's literally just like a normal like filter, but this way you could get H2Go
The
at
thought
home.
of you the you saying putting it on a tap is crazy. Like the idea of just putting a little logo that says H2. You're like,
I'm just
finally.
picturing the single dad. He's like, I don't know if you watched The Simpsons. Milhouse's dad, Kirk. Do you remember him? He's kind of like the lovable loser, divorced dad. I picture like a Kirk Van Houten type guy getting home and he's like cooking his microwave dinner, in the microwave or whatever. And then he goes over to his like sink and his bachelor pad, this little tiny, a couple 100 square foot bachelor pad, but it's got this really cool looking thing that's on the tap. So he feels like when he's turning the tap water on, like, yeah, he's getting the whole, getting better, right? Life's looking up. He's going to soon be with that dream girl. And yeah.
I imagine him pouring water into a cup and then realizing, oh shit, I didn't turn this on, and then throwing out the water, flipping the the machine on, and being like, thank God, that could have been bad, and then drinking the normal.
I used to watch The Simpsons religiously, not so much in recent years, but I always loved the episode where Kirk, his wife kicked him out or whatever, and he's telling Homer, like, Homer's like, well, I got a perfect marriage, and he, with Marge, and Kirk says, no, one day you think everything's fine, then you come home and there's a hot dog that's thawing out in the sink, and then it's over. So Homer gets home later that night. He's like, Marge. And he walks into the kitchen. He's looking around. He looks down the sink, and there's that hot dog, the wiener that's just de-thawing, and then it's like, dun, dun, dun,
Oh no. That's how that sounds like our first ad when we get a budget. When we validated this, we can just
maybe work out something with the Simpsons creators. Like we can't get a premier character like Bart, Homer, or whatever. Kirk, Milhouse's dad. That's probably in the budget.
That's easy. Yeah, it's been long enough too, right? I mean, it's public domain probably soon, right? Like
I think 35 seasons or
we'll get there. If not, we can use Mickey Mouse. That's public, or Willie, Steamboat Willie. That just became
Winnie the Pooh. There's a Winnie the Pooh horror movie that's being made. Did you see it? Or I saw the trailer.
It's on my list for October. There's
Isn't
two
it
of
called
them.
Like Pooh or something?
It's called Blood and Honey. Yes, it's. Take our producers looking at us like, why are we talking about Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey?
We're all over the place. And I saw a video yesterday, and it's like why you should never look too closely at Disney World. And it had the Minnie Mouse person was like around the side of the building having a smoke, taking Minnie's head, the mascot head off, and it's like some 60-year-old dude that's like broken down and like just looks. And I'm thinking,
he's like questioning his whole life.
That's working hard, but it kind of ruins the magic if you have like a daughter that you take to Disney World and it's like, I don't know, Hector, the 65-year-old,
with a cigarette, and he's holding a diet water in his other hand.
He's all hungover, he's like puking in Minnie's head and everything.
Oh my God, it's over. Minnie's over for that. Yeah, no, I I love it.
I don't know why they just wouldn't make him Mickey. Maybe it's just as bad, but it's really weird.
Maybe he was covering for a friend, right? Maybe the friend's like, hey, we're wearing a mask the whole time. They'll never know. Yeah, and that was it. Yeah. Okay, so we're marketing this. We're marketing this to gyms. I actually would probably do that. I'd go find gyms and like smoothie shops and health food places and put it there. Where else do single divorced dads hang out, or dad bods, or dudes who are trying to date much younger?
I don't know if it's as much of a thing nowadays post COVID with the bars, the clubs and everything. I was out with a buddy of mine. When was this? probably just coming out of COVID, we went downtown, and I like kind of a lounge, live music, pub or
Sure.
whatever. I don't
Yeah.
want to be in a place where the average age is like 19 or something. And he said, "Hey, do you want to go in there?" And I took one peek in the door, and I'm like, yeah, I would just feel like a total creep going in there. So, but there were some, not a huge number, but maybe 10% are the creepy divorced dads that are in places like that. So that's one place they're at. I mean,
Some bars, get it under the NA options for people who aren't drinking or for maybe who want to cycle it. Okay.
yeah, because I think it's 50 Cent doesn't drink, so he always gets like a ginger ale or something to make it look like he's drinking alcohol. Because if not, all these people will be trying to buy him drinks or whatever. So that could be the option for these dads that, hey, they could still go into the bars and not have to, if they're trying to lose weight and stuff, buy beer or hard liquor or whatever. They can get the H2Go and still feel good about themselves and dance up a storm.
Dance up a storm. I like that. I like sending it to actually like influencers. Like, I mean, the chances of 50 Cent responding to it is probably low, but like sending it to like smaller influencers who are either health or like sobriety.
Well, even, hey, podcasters, like what, we know a lot of podcasters. Imagine if, in movies and different shows when they have like a Coca-Cola can or something and it's positioned just perfectly with the label. Think about every time you do a podcast, if you've got your H2Go that's in the camera, line of sight, it's not too obvious with it, but then you're taking a drink, every so often. Politicians, Marco Rubio. I don't know if you remember when he gave the response to the State of the Union years ago, and it was just flying through the water. He's like sweating, and he took a break. And he's going like this. And Trump made fun of him years later for it. If you ever Google it, you'll find it. But Marco Rubio would probably be a great person for that.
I want to find the meme now really quick because
if you say Marco Rubio water. Yeah.
This. Oh, okay. Yes, I remember this. Yeah, and he has the smallest little bottle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe he's the anti-person.
He's like mid sentence, and he's like talking to how many millions of Americans here, and then he just like takes a break to take his little
the smallest water bottle he could find. Okay, okay. So we have our water. We're gonna do influencer marketing. We're gonna do gyms. I think we're gonna try to maybe put it on social media. I don't know. I think of like the actual diet water brand, like Liquid Death, and they made it cool. Like I think they went to concerts. I think that was their strategy.
Yeah, I read a good article on them a few years back, and I wish I'd saved it. So I don't know their story well enough. I know it's the one with the skull, right? Isn't it on the can? Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, and they have flavored water too, and they have like tea now and lemonade. And
so, what's your deal? Are they diet water, or are they trying to position it as like a healthy? Are they our competitor?
They're our competitor, yeah. And we just need a small little bit of market share. We can get them.
See, and maybe it's too on the nose. If I know they're the elephant in the room, the competitor with the huge market share, then maybe we play off it like Liquid Life or something, instead of Liquid Death. Did you ever see, the 5-hour energy shots? I used to have them. I haven't had them in a long time, but I always remember there's these cheap knockoff ones up here that were like 6-hour energy drinks or something like that. And I saw a meme, the confused Keanu Reeves meme that you see where he's thinking of like deep questions, pondering. I forget what it was exactly. It was something like, if I continually drink 5-hour energy drinks, will I be immortal or will I never die? Because you always get like 5 hours ahead.
He's adding 5 hours to his life. That's how it works. Yeah. I think we just need to lie. Like, I think that's what we've learned is if we're going to sell diet water, it's predicated on a lie. Diet water doesn't exist, so we're just gonna have to, be imaginative. But yeah, no, I think on an actual note, I think Liquid Death is just their whole deal was to create a drink for sober people that looked cool out at concerts. So like when you're out at a bar or a concert, you're holding a Liquid Death. That looks like it could be a beer. Right. I think that's what I remember it being. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
It makes sense and I know the non-alcoholic market for wines and everything else is exploding right now because so many people are sober curious. Me, I don't get it. Like if I'm a white wine guy, but when I think about it, it's not for the taste isn't the best in the world, right? So I'd be thinking if it's not alcoholic, yeah, I'll just skip it altogether. But I guess you do feel out of place because I've friends, and well, my twin brother doesn't drink, really anymore. Once every couple years, and then he's like, "Yeah, I know why I don't do it. It's just he got out of his system when he's younger." And but he's always pressured because people are like, "Oh, gee, you're drinking water like on the patio at a restaurant in the summer. You sure you don't want something?" So they think he's either like a a former alcoholic, or he's not pregnant. Well, maybe nowadays men can get pregnant apparently, so maybe he could be pregnant, or they think he's super religious or something. He's not. He's like, no, he's into the gym, his health, and he doesn't have any desire to drink. So that's who it could target, someone like that doesn't want to look like a total loser.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm about to show my hand a little here, but like I went to, so there's a big concert. It's called Lollapalooza here in the States. It's like a music festival, kind of like a Coachella, whatever, right? So we go to it because I live like 20 minutes from where it would be, right? And so we go to it most years. Even when we didn't live here, we would often travel to come to it, just because I grew up kind of around it. So me and my wife, we were like open to drinking, but we just like, I don't know, I don't really feel like it. Do you? And she's like, no, I don't really feel like it. And so we were ending up holding water, like these liquid death cans of water, or they had multiple mocktail sections where they had like margaritas and mojitos and all this stuff, just because you feel kind of weird otherwise, right? Like everybody else is sipping on something or doing other stuff, and you're just kind of standing there like, God forbid you stand there and listen to music. Like, I've never thought I'd feel weird at a concert just sitting there taking it in. But I guess, but we did that. We bought multiple.
There's such pressure around alcohol. It's crazy. Like, you never see that with anything else. Like, you imagine like, like, I don't know, drugs like heroin, cocaine, whatever, meth. It's like people would be shamed for not doing it. It would probably be, hey, good on you or whatever. Alcohol, you're the bad guy if you choose not to drink, like you and your wife.
Yeah, it's weird because like we're not like against drinking either. I just do it so rarely. I had a friend. I think they still are. They're alive. So I have a friend who he used to tell people he was sober, just because it then just stopped the conversation. He's like, oh no,
Yeah.
I'm not an alcoholic, nor will I avoid drinking. I just tell people I'm sober because then it stops it right away.
I had a friend in university, and he just wasn't into drinking, and he was great to have at parties because he had a DD, but he would bring like a 12 case of Pepsi and just be drinking Pepsi nonstop. And I'm kind of doing the math. I'm like, maybe it's more healthy to be drinking than to be doing 12 Pepsi. Trump has like 13 Diet Cokes a day or something, I think. So he doesn't drink, but with all that sugar and everything, I don't know, it might be a wash.
There's probably a consequence to it. It's just like us on our phones all the time. Like I feel like it's going to be like a smoke, like whatever smoking is, and we just don't know yet. Like we'll know when we're older and we're on medications to manage it. Okay, so diet water, H2 flow, H2 go, H2 no. We help who achieve what using what. So like the classic marketing. I'm sure you've advised people on this hundreds of times at this point, where like we help. Again, in your business, you help coaches get clients without paid ads, right? What are we gonna like come up with for our value prop for H2?
So this is me coming from a coach perspective. When I'm helping coaches, they say it's much easier to sell coaching if it's solving one of the big three issues. You've got money, or an offshoot of that. You got money, you've got love or relationships, and your health. One of those big three. So thinking about that with diet water, the first one that stands out is love, because this guy's divorced, our target, our avatar. He's divorced. He's lonely. He wants to find, the love of his life. So I feel like it's tough to say diet water is going to, H2Go is going to help you make more money. Maybe you have more energy, but I think the love angle is probably the best for these guys.
I love that was your response, because like I fully expected you to go the health angle. Like that feels like the obvious. But you're right. The other people have it. like Liquid Death has the health angle. Let's just sell a love potion and say that this is like effectively, if you drink this water, you're going to find the love of your life because you're going to look so hot.
You know who we could really go after too? I know from I'm single at the moment and I hate dating apps. I'm on there off and on. They're just frustrating. And I know a lot of other single guys feel the same way. Single women too, but single guys. So almost feel like we could take a bite out if there's of the dating app revenue with Tinder, Bumble, all these ones, Hinge, if we target them, like basically get off the apps and, like, but really play it up. Like, hey, you drink this water you're seen around town with us. This is better than any dating app,
People will just be flooding to you. And so we'll have 50 Cent in an ad. We'll have his drinking water. People are flooding to them. It's not because he's 50 Cent. It's because of the water he's holding. I like it. I think we've got one. We should.
It's a winner.
We might not even be able to release this video
episode. No, because it's going to be like what was it, the Winklevoss twins or whatever with Mark Zuckerberg. Like I feel like there's a Mark Zuckerberg that's going to see this, and then I don't know, 6 months, a year down the road, we're going to see some dude walking around our cities like drinking this stuff, and
we're going to see 50 Cent on our ads.
So
on our
I don't know if we
ads.
can trademark, put in a patent or something like.
There's time. This isn't out yet. We can still do something with it.
Okay, I'll handle Canadian distribution. You can handle the US.
Perfect.
So busier. Yeah.
Yes. So I'll be busy. Yeah, I'll start it in the US, and in 6 months to a year, that's when you'll need to handle it. Okay. Okay. What's the tagline? Just 0 calorie water?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we've got H2Go, working title, but then the subtitle underneath. What about something like, love in a bottle, if we're going with the whole love.
Love in a bottle? Okay. I like it.
And now I'm thinking we could have called our water like Love Potion number 9 or something.
You know what? We have not released it yet. The Winklevosses haven't stolen this yet. We can call it Love Potion number 9. 0 calorie water.
We'll do a test. Like we got to get some target like test groups and stuff like that.
Yeah. Of course we're gonna be professional. We're gonna run focus groups and the whole thing. We're not gonna just throw it out there. That would be irresponsible and silly. Okay. Well, there we go. I think we have it. I think we have our product. H2Go. We'll create a nice little thing. Or no, what is it? Love Potion number 9. 0
let's go with the H2Go. How about
you like H2Go?
Yeah. Okay, it's a good play on the whole H2O. Yeah.
H2Go, 0 calorie water, or maybe 0 calorie beverage. It's one of those things. And then we'll just let people gaslight themselves and be like, I thought water had. I guess it doesn't. I guess it doesn't have 0 calories, and this one does.
It's the Unwater. Is it 7-Up or Sprite that had the Uncola? They called it. One of the two did that whole thing.
Really? No, I don't remember that. I think Sprite's owned by Coke. So
is it? Yeah, one of them had the Uncola. One of the two. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. No, I don't. I remember that existing, but I couldn't tell you what it looks like or anything like that.
Yeah, it was just normal 7-Up or Sprite, but that was their tagline, the Uncola, just to kind of go the other way where away.
Oh, just to market it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I remember the campaign, but okay, cool. All right, well, I think that's it for that segment. We'll throw it up on the screen. H2Go, 0 calorie beverage. And that's it. That's a winner. Awesome. All right, let's press on to our kind of next section here, which we call business or pleasure, where I might ask you a business question, which is real and might help people, or I might ask you a silly, goofy, whatever I want question, which is for me. So we'll kind of toss a coin. We'll say heads is business, tails is pleasure, and we'll kind of press through that way if you're all right with it. All right, so heads. Okay, I guess we're going to ask a real question. So let's get into it. Okay, so this is a real one. For you send daily emails for like what, thousands of days in a row? You've been sending daily emails here.
A little over 3,000.
Yes, that's what I have here. I was just making sure. 3,000 days. How do you keep your content fresh? Yeah, let's start with that. How do you keep your content fresh if you're sending 3,000 emails? If you're sending one every single day, don't you ever run out of stuff?
I have a team of monkeys in the garage. I got all the typewriters. There's another Simpsons reference, if anyone remembers. Mr. Burns had them writing the great American novel. It's funny because you would think that that you would run out of stuff to write about, but what people find the more that you email, it's just like going to the gym, building your muscle. You're building your content creation muscle, but suddenly I've got all these ideas flying at me all day long. Like if I'm at Costco, I see something or whatever, I'm watching something, I'm reading something, whatever. So if anything, I probably have too many ideas. I'll put them in a draft in my email platform and just save them there as needed. The other thing, full disclosure, is I sometimes cheat because I've been doing it for so many years. I can go back and repackage like an email from 2017, right, and then put it in there. Sometimes I might have to tweak it a little bit, depending. But mostly my stuff's evergreen. So sometimes I will go back and do that. And yeah, I find the more that I do it, I shouldn't say I don't ever have any trouble. If I'm ever stuck, I go back to my bookcase or whatever. I'm the type that highlights in my books, writes notes and stuff. I can always find a passage there and then riff off it. Like Cal Newport, I was reading the other day, he wrote in deep work, blah, 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 blah. Here's what I think about it. Then it goes off on that tangent.
Do you wake up every morning and like have like a time block amount of time where you are going to write that email for the day, or do you do it once a week, or do you do it like once a month?
Yeah, I batch write them, and I recommend anyone who's looking to do, whether it be weekly emails, daily emails, or whatever. I do think you don't want to leave it to chance a morning of, and let's say your dog's sick, you got to rush him to the vet, or something's happened. I'll take time. A block of time could be maybe 2 hours where I say, okay, I'm going to write 7 emails right now, or I get just crank out 10, and then they're scheduled in. So at any given time, I usually have at least a week or two ahead in the future, sometimes more. Now, if something happens, let's say World War III breaks out tomorrow, and I want to talk about it in my email tomorrow, I can just unschedule the one that was set to go out tomorrow, push it back a bit, and then write a fresh one for that day. But yeah, life happens. You're putting a lot of pressure on yourself. Maybe you get hit with writer's block. If you're doing it the morning of and you have a blank screen with that cursor blinking, that's a lot of pressure to put on yourself.
Totally. Okay, that makes sense. I think the idea of blocking, it was interesting. I did like a year and a half of daily emails long time ago. Yeah, because one of our, I think, mutual colleagues had advised me. He was like, "You're bad at writing. You need to get good at writing. So you're going to write every day." And then by the end of it, like it was really working out. I had like, big websites who were like, "Hey, you should write an article for us," and things like that. And those things are still up and exist. What's kind of been the biggest win? All that, not to flex, all that to ask, what's been the biggest win you've gotten from writing your daily emails over the past 3,000 days?
Probably money.
We love money.
If you're not monetizing anything you do
Sure.
in business, whether it be podcast, emails, social media, then you probably shouldn't do it, or find a way to change how you're doing it so you're monetizing it. I know that might be a shocking thing to say, because you've probably seen AJ in the coaching world, the online space. These people try to make themselves out like they're Mother Teresa. Oh no, I don't care about the money. It's not, it's almost like they'd rather not make money. Usually those are the wolves in sheep's clothing, and they're the worst ones, really.
Yeah.
But I do find that it's coaches. This has changed, but in my background for quite a while, I had a picture of your beautiful American $100 bills, which are much better looking than our Canadian funny money. We've got like purple and all these different colors, and we got toonies and loonies. Like,
they have better names. I was going to say they have way better names.
Yeah, that's zany Canadians. But I had a portrait of a bunch of Benjamins, $100 bills, and someone had said to me once, like, "Mark, maybe you should change that. It might give the wrong impression. Like I'm Gordon Gekko or J.R. Ewing or something." And I said, "No, I'm always advising my clients, those coaches, to be comfortable with charging, I know it's cliche, charging what they're worth, making a good profit on their business, and so on. So I want them to be comfortable, and I want to be comfortable showing that, hey, I'm in business and I like money. Now you have to couple that with actually being able to give results too, to get the money. Bob Berg, who wrote The Go-Giver, said something to me years ago on my podcast, and stuck with me to this day. And he said, money is an echo of value. So he was basically saying that if you put enough value out into the universe, out into the marketplace, it's going to be reflected in your bank account.
I agree. That's one of the things. I mean, there's a lot of things I admire and like about you, but one of the things is the candor. I think for whatever weird reason, and we could dive into why it is in the future or now, but like there seems to be this I guess apprehension to being like, hey, my business's outcome is to generate money, right? Like, yes, you make money by generating value, and that's obvious, but it's almost like I think people feel maybe they don't value what they're doing, especially maybe in coaching. You might see it is because it's them a lot of times, right? It's them is it's their service, and they feel the need to like justify with like, well, I'm going to change the world, or I'm going to have a huge impact, or I'm going to be the next XYZ whoever celebrity or influencer they're a fan of that year. When it's okay to just be like, hey, I do this because it's like my business and it makes money and it's how I survive in the world, and I do a really great job at it. Like that's it.
Addition to think that way, because if you look at the forces in society, take Hollywood for example, pretty much every movie or a lot of them, the big bad guy is usually a rich white dude often. you know
Yeah,
but it's a rich person that's
sure.
going into the small town to take over the kids ball field and put a toxic waste dump in place of it,
Sure.
and
Yes.
the kids have to save the day or whatever.
Yeah, and the kids can
um,
work and they can shovel
yeah,
too.
and you don't even think of it, right? But next time, if you look at some of the movies that you've watched recently, whether it be Netflix or theater, take a look at that. It's usually a rich guy
Yeah.
that's a villain. It's very rarely the rich guy's the hero
Mhm.
that's in there. So we don't even see that. That's running 24/7 and conditioning us with it. And
Yeah,
like I mentioned in jokingly, Gordon Gekko, J.R. Ewing,
sure.
stuff like that before, but now they could be considered anti-heroes because a lot of people do, like them, and they're quite popular. But it's not popular to come out and say that you like money. Which
No.
SpongeBob character is it? Mr. Crab. That's
Mr.
always,
Krabs, yeah.
yeah, like money, 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 or
What
whatever.
he, what he,
Yeah,
he's got the
he's
yeah, and he's got his
he's got the
cross,
formula for the whatever. What is
the
it? The
Krabby Patty.
Krabby Patty, yes. And the other one's trying to always get it. Yeah, you can tell I don't watch SpongeBob, but I know some of the themes there, and
Yeah.
yeah,
No, I think no, I think it's refreshing and good, and I think it's okay, like to just do a good job and want money for your services, and like there doesn't have to be this deep, like there can be a deep meaning, but there doesn't have to be this deep entrenched meaning to what you're doing. It doesn't have to like if it is, that's great, but it doesn't have to be the case, right?
well, the problem is if you have bad thoughts about money, it's going to bleed through and it's going to hurt your efforts, right? So, for example, Facebook groups, that's something where I know from building up a group, I see a lot of group owners, and this could be any community, could even be email list owners writing to their list, but I see group owners who you can tell are timid about putting an offer out to their people. Or they'll say, which I've seen before, they'll say words like, hey guys, sorry to bug you. This is the only time I'm going to talk about it this week, but I've got 3 spots open in my group coaching program. No harm if you don't want, if it's not for you or whatever. I'm sorry. I just want to mention it here. And people could pick up on that energy, right? And the same thing goes with discovery calls for coaches. I know a lot of coaches who are excellent at the early part of the call. They just they show up, they're just on their A game, and the call's going great. And then when they have to transition into talking about let's work together, what it would look like, the energy gets weird, and then all of a sudden the call's done. They're not going to get that client, and that's something that coaches. I mean, any salesperson I think would probably fall into that as well. What I like to do is I use humor a lot with things. So, for example, for 10 years I sold real estate and built up a brokerage here in Canada through my 20s. And every time I had a ton of listings, every time I went to list a property, our standard commission was 6% usually. And we're at the kitchen table ready to sign up the listing agreement with Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And a lot of times they would say, well, what's the commission? I'd say 6%. And they say, oh, are you flexible on that? And I would just shoot back right away. I'm like, sure, I'll take 7%. And, ha, 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 like that or whatever. And I'm like, okay, push hard. The old saying, real estate, push hard, the carbon's cheap. This was a stone age before tablets and everything else, early 2000s. But that was using humor to diffuse that, what could be kind of an awkward energy type thing. If you're talking about a commission money on someone's biggest investment, it's, real estate commissions are quite high and it's a big chunk of change, but that usually got a laugh and then they just went ahead, and signed it. So you can, yeah, tweak that, use it for whatever business you're in. Inject a little humor, have fun. We're all humans. We're not robots.
I no, I think that's helpful and good. I think for coaches, it's especially helpful because I think they do have a weird, especially if they're newer, right? Maybe they don't feel good about asking for money, or it's almost like this lead up, right? It's almost like the kiss at the door at the end of the date is what it feels like, right? And they're like, I hope I don't get rejected, or I don't get a side hug, right? It's kind of the vibe that they're trying to avoid, but yeah, one of the things, while we're talking about this, that I've seen that has been helpful is like we're training salespeople in our team, and we train people in sales all the time. I know you know that, but just as a refresher to anybody who's like, this is the first time I've ever heard of you, AJ. They were like, is it's okay to just be like, hey, this is what it costs. Do you want to do it? Like, yes or no? Like, it's cool either way. Like, it's not going to hurt my feelings. I just want to know, like, asking for a sale. And then I think sometimes people will put up walls and they'll be like, well, I need to think about it. And a lot of times coaches, salespeople, new business owners will be like, okay, go think about it. I'll talk to you later. It's like, well, what are you thinking about? Like, are you thinking that this isn't the right solution? Are you thinking that it's too expensive? Like, just not being afraid to talk to them like a person, like pretend it's like an actual friend of yours who you're just like, hey, do you want this like thing that I have, right? Do you want this car that I have? I'm selling you a car, my used car. Do you want it? Oh, I don't know. What don't you know? Well, it's all scratched up. Oh, okay. Well, what if I fix the scratches? Like if we approached it like we sold anything else, I think it would make life a little bit easier, but it's often uncomfortable.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that's one of the reasons coaching can be tough to sell. When you're selling the car, it's a physical item. You can get the blue book. Okay, what year is it? What make, model, roughly what condition? You can narrow it down to a pretty small window of what the price should be. Coaching, you've got coaches going everywhere from peanuts free coaching, or some people charge $50 an hour,
right,
and then you got coaches charging six figures, multiple six figures a year to work with them, and then you got Tony Robbins, Steve Hardison's 6 figures a year, stuff like that, and everywhere in between. So it's a wild west. It's like trying to nail Jello to the wall, and you don't have something you can hand them, or even a service. So for example, my brother, his team, they had a podcast. He's been doing it for almost a decade. It's very easy for him. Like, he's always booked solid. People know, okay, I will charge you this much. I will edit your podcasts. We'll do this, and people can get their heads wrapped around it. But if I said, hey, AJ, if I was a coach, I was like, hey, I want to help you transform your life. Let's talk about it. It's not as easy to define, right?
You're right. It's harder to define a lot of times, and sometimes that's because a coach can do a lot, and sometimes it's because a coach needs to maybe they need support from somebody like you who can help with their messaging and like, hey, where's your main area of expertise, right? Like, I know you can help everything. I know you can get them into heaven and everything, but like, let's talk about like helping them just develop an offer or building a community or whatever.
Well, I always I consider myself probably a coach consultant. You're combining coach and consultant, because sometimes I think, unfortunately, coaches, and not saying unfortunately, but they're thinking that they can't give any guidance. Right? You're just there to ask questions, and the person unearths the truth from inside themselves or whatever. I don't get too hung up on it. I'm helping someone get from point A to point B just to get results, and how I get them there, that what works best, that's the name of the game here. And I feel like a lot of coaches, it's not like that with them, and that probably gives them some trouble too when they're selling it.
Yeah, it's kind of like a therapist in many ways, like where like a therapist kind of is just a mirror. They hold up a mirror to you, and you kind of figure it out. So okay, cool. Let me see if I can get one more question in here. Let me toss this really quick. Okay, Tails, so we're going to ask you a goofy question. Okay, this is kind of goofy but kind of serious. What's the most ridiculous thing you've ever done in the name of productivity?
Wow. Most ridiculous thing I've done in the name of productivity. I don't know if I've done anything crazy. Like, I haven't worn my boxers inside out, or something like, oh, this is going to make me more. Yeah. Hey, maybe I'll try that. My thing My thing would be, this is a very probably boring answer because it's not crazy or goofy, but I think there is a point to be made with it. Is that I sometimes, I'm a workaholic, an admitted workaholic. I'm trying to work on it, ironically. But too often, when I should be settling down for the night, 7, 8 o'clock at night or whatever, should be getting ready to get to bed, I get a second wind, and then I work till like 1 or 2 in the morning on stuff, because in my mind I'm like, that's me being productive. But what I don't realize is that the next day that's going to hurt me. I'm going to be less productive because I'm not going to get as much sleep or whatever. So I do consider that kind of an answer to yours, that's backwards thinking. It's just hard to force yourself if you're all revved up and you want to keep going, to then say, okay, get your head on the pillow, go to sleep. It can be tough.
Yeah, I don't know if that's interesting. I don't know if I even hear that as, I understand there's a consequence to like working all over the place, but if you get like a burst of creativity, especially in your space, which is you do a lot of creative stuff as part of your job, I would say, I don't know if you agree with that. If sometimes you just have a moment where you're just like, oh, I have this idea and just working on it right now, I think it's actually okay. But I do understand how that wouldn't necessarily work for everybody, or if you don't have a creative job, right? So.
Yeah. The interesting thing with entrepreneurs is the average person out there has to force himself to get off the couch, stop watching Netflix, turn off TV, and get on the laptop to do whatever. Mm-hmm. Us entrepreneurs, it's the opposite. We have to force ourselves to close the laptop, stop working, force ourselves onto the couch to watch Netflix. And then we're usually multitasking. We've got our phone on social media, answering emails and everything else like that. So I've learned to embrace it. You make a good point there that, if you're fired up and you want to work, like I'm not going to have a lot of fun sitting in the lazy boy reading a book at night. Mm-hmm. If I'm just like, I want to go. I want to hammer away at some work here. So it's recognizing your strengths, but also being mindful of burnout, because that is a thing I've realized with all the interviews, I'm sure you have too, that I've talked with a lot of guests. Many of them mentioned either on air or off air that they experienced pretty bad burnout in the past.
Yeah, I've reached such a point of burnout in the past, just to affirm what you're saying, that I've had to like take years off because I just ran myself too hard. And so the balance.
But if you had the diet water, you wouldn't have burned out. If
I had the diet water, I'd look hot. I'd have, and that would solve all my problems. I wouldn't need to go to the gym. You wouldn't need a dating app. I've never been on a dating app ever.
I'm jealous.
They got popular right when I got married, and so
it's a dumpster fire. It really is.
I'm a little jealous that I never got to experience that, but also it's like kind of a point of pride. I'm like, oh, I've never been on a dating app. That's cool. Like, I don't even think I've ever downloaded it.
I was married. I was with my ex-wife for 13 years. We got together in university and we were married for half of it. And I've been in, 2-year relationships since then, 1 and 2 year relationships. But I always say to my brother, because he's happily married, and I say, don't jump in the pool. Like, do whatever you can to keep her.
Jump in the pool.
I'm swimming in a pool of acid. My skin's burning off here. And
the grass on the other side is actually lava. Don't do it.
And it reminds me, it was a wedding singer in Chicago. Was that where it was?
I think it was. I think it was.
And do you remember Adam Sandler's friend that wore the Michael Jackson coat and glove? He was like a real player. He had the mustache. Uh-huh. Yep. So I always remember the scene when, Adam Sandler is like dumped at the altar and stuff like that. And he's talking to his friend who's like a ladies' man, bringing home different woman every night. And he's like, I'm just going to be like you, just like bang a bunch of different women and be happy or whatever. And they're at a bar and his friend looks, he goes, I'm not happy. Yeah. And he's like, what? He thinks he has it all. So all these guys that are in marriages, relationships, oh my God, it'd be so great to be single. I'm more a relationship guy, a good relationship. I'd rather be single than in a bad relationship, but a good relationship's the holy grail.
I agree. I'm very happy being married, and I have a lot of single friends, and they are like, oh, we're going to go do this and that. And then maybe the one married friend's like, yeah, I don't want to hang out with my wife. It's not fun, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, is that what it's like, AJ? I'm like, no, that's just, he's got to figure it out. He might be in your club really soon. So yeah.
I need a wingman. But no, the problem nowadays versus say even 20 years ago is, I heard this, I didn't come up with this. I heard this somewhere. But in the past, if someone found a partner, let's say in the year 2000, that filled 80% of their checklist or whatever, that's pretty good. They would team up, and that's it, and they're partners. Nowadays, people, especially women, have a phone in their pocket with hundreds of guys sliding into their DMs, and their social media. They're getting the validation and everything else with all the the simps liking their thumbs up, liking, commenting, and everything. So people are starting to think, wait a minute, why am I going to be with someone with 80%? I could get someone with 100%. Look at all the attention I'm getting. And then they, oh God, I don't want to have a JD Vance moment, but then they end up being 55 or 60 with a cat, drinking a bottle of wine a night and wondering, oh God, why can't I find a man? And same thing goes with men too. I think that we tend to probably have the grass is greener mentality as well. But yeah, I'm not a fan of dating in 2024, 2025. It's like, send me back to the 90s or early 2000s.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. I am, I am happy. I want you to be happy. I want any of my single friends to be happy. But I'm pretty good with not having to date in 2024 or even explore that. I'm pretty okay. Okay, cool. Let's wrap up here. Oh, by the way, the worst productivity thing I did. I used to meditate every day for an hour, and I woke up at 4 a.m. Like, because people said that's what you're supposed to do, like a stupid idiot.
Yeah.
It's like, why am I doing that? Anyway, you don't have to do those things. All right, let's go into the final question here really quick, and then I'll let you go because I know you got a busy day,
Sure.
My workaholic friend. So, if you could be remembered for one thing in your whole life, what would it be and why?
I think if there's a movie being made in my life, book or whatever, one of the themes I've realized is I've been knocked down a number of times, but I've always gotten back up. So it's always that fall 7 times, stand up 8, keep moving forward. Robin Sharma talks about it. And what I would like to do if I had a megaphone or I could speak to every 8 billion plus people in the world is that it's never over. It may seem like when you're in the eye of the storm that, oh, it's over. And that's how I felt. I went through a bad business closure in real estate. I'm like, well, what's the point of going on here? Like this is it. Now, 15 years later, I can look back and it's like, I don't even think about it every day. It's like a wound has a scar over it. It's healed. So that would be what I would want to stress to them is you're never truly defeated until you give up. And I know it sounds cliche, but I think it's true.
Wrong. The answer was diet water, but we'll take that.
Number 2.
That was incorrect, but no, no, that actually is, that's great counsel. So like, I agree with that, right? Like, I think oftentimes people see your highs and they're like, oh, look at how great. And there's a lot of lows and you can start over. I've started over a bunch of times in my life and, everybody sees me when I'm winning, but they don't necessarily see the dirt you have to eat to get to that goal. And you can start over at any time.
One suggestion I would leave people with, because I'm in the process, I just rewatched the trilogy. I love the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy, with Christian Bale.
Yes.
And Batman Begins, then there's the Dark Knight Rises. But he's, in the Dark Knight Rises in the worst prison in the world, nobody's ever escaped it or whatever. And he's able to get out and get back to Gotham. And I think that that's important. It's the whole alter ego effect Todd Herman wrote the book about, that you pick someone in, it could be fiction, could be real, could be a mashup of a few people. And then you look at those traits that they have. And then it's almost like you're putting a mask on and you're inhibiting that role when you're out in your field of play, which is, for us, business, online, doing our thing or whatever. So if you need a kick in the butt, close the laptop, watch a movie. Limitless, Bradley Cooper. That one always gets me going. The Founder, Michael Keaton, about McDonald's, Ray Kroc. I mean, there's so many great ones. That's my last.
No, I think that's actually good advice, and I'm gonna show my hand and be embarrassing here, and then I'm gonna let you plug your stuff because I know you got to go. But like, I am somebody who even in so the last couple of years we've been rebuilding our a whole different company where we're and you know about this, where we're doing like B2B biz dev and stuff like that. And the stuff that I found motivating, embarrassingly enough, is watching like anime. Like where there's it's always the same main character, right?
Yeah.
It's like this guy, he's the runt. Everybody thinks he sucks and he's just going to win anyway, just by brute forcing. Right. And so I would literally listen to that stuff in the morning, get gassed up and that would motivate me. And even now, I still sometimes listen to that stuff. So
it's whatever
it
gets your
takes,
engine going, right?
yeah, whatever it takes to get you going.
Not an anime guy, but I've got Stan Lee, Stan the man here, and that's motivation for his creativity. This is not real. I wish it was. Action Comics #1, Superman. I would, no offense, I like you, AJ, and the team and stuff, but if I had a legit Action Comics for Superman, I would be on an island somewhere. Anyways, but things like that motivate me. And the last memorabilia or thing on my desk, this is the most interesting man in the world. He signed this for me. Remember the DOS Asquith commercials there, Jonathan Goldsmith. And that's a reminder to keep my content and stuff I do interesting. So
I love that. No, I think that's I think that's great. I love it. So I want to be respectful of your time. I know we have just a few minutes. Why don't you go ahead? If people like your stuff, need help with coaching, need help building coaching, need a coach, like maybe they need your support, where can they find you and more of your stuff, Marc?
Yeah, so I mean, the central hub is naturalborncoaches.com. We've got tons of podcasts. You've been on the show before, AJ, so they could do a search there for you. The coachingjungle.com gets you to the Facebook group. And we also have a really cool VIP perk, which you are a paying VIP, so thank you for being part of it. And that one, maybe you guys could put on the show notes page, because full disclosure, you are an affiliate, so you'll make a few dollars there. But if anyone is interested in reaching 26,000 plus potential clients, becoming a VIP gives you promotional perks and stuff, and you can use AJ's affiliate link to get started.
And anybody watching this, I do strongly recommend this. If you're somebody who is like just getting an offer off the ground, like Marc was one of the first kind of JV partners that I worked with after validating our offer, and it really built up a lot of momentum for what we're doing right now, which is now much larger. I think since I think when I met Marc and we were getting things going, we had like 5 clients, and we have gone through like 70, almost 80 clients at this point. It's been a few years. So
nice.
So it's all that to say, it's certainly a worthy investment of your time and resources. So I wholeheartedly believe in it. And I think if anybody is thinking about it, especially if they're a coach or they're looking for more JV opportunities, it's a strong, good idea.
And I should mention the JV link with the details. It's jvwithmarc.com, and it's Marc with a C. So jvwithmarc.com.
Yep. And you'll see my bright shining face there. And we'll put all those things in the notes. And if you have questions, leave it in. If you're depending on the channel you're on, leave a comment or send us a DM, and we'll make sure we get that over to you. Marc, thank you so much for investing this time here with me today. I deeply, deeply appreciate it. It was fun, and I look forward to connecting with you again soon.
Yeah, okay. I had fun too. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.